Well, welcome everybody. It is just 7 o'clock, so we will begin with our summer meeting of Wisconsin's Green Fire Nitrate Watch. I'm Carolyn Prowley. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for Wisconsin's Green Fire. I am delighted to be at this meeting with you with our Nitrate Watch coordinators, Christine Mechanic and Paula Liberty, who you may know already or be meeting for the first time this evening. We also have Samantha Puckett from the Isaac Walton League of America and Save Our Streams. So I just want to start off with a very happy Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week to everybody, and thank you for joining us. I do just have a couple little things of housekeeping that I want to go through, and then we will proceed with the rest of our agenda for the hour. We have, I think, a lot of really good content to cover, so we'll probably fill the hour, but we will try to make as much time as we can for conversation and questions. I do ask that you keep your microphones generally muted just so we cut back on that background noise. But if there's something really important that you'd like to ask, or just a comment you'd like to share, I encourage you to put that in the chat. If you'd like to start out just with your name and where you're calling in from, I always love seeing those filter in as we move through this time together. This meeting is being recorded, so you can always come back to it or share it with others who may be interested in Nitrate Watch as well. I do want us to take a moment together, wherever you are, and maybe thinking about wherever you do your Nitrate Watch sampling, and think about the history of these places, the lands and waters that we share our lives with, our neighbors, Indigenous and immigrant, who we are living amongst, all those histories and current lives that steward these lands and these waters. I think that's worth a moment of reflection in this beginning of our meeting together, and thank those people, connect to those places, and recommit ourselves to this work of caring for these lands and waters and each other. I am going to just make sure I can advance our slides here. To give you a glimpse of our agenda for the evening, I'm going to do a brief overview of some of our accomplishments. We've been a Nitrate Watch partner organization for just about a year now, which is an exciting milestone. Then I'll turn it over to Samantha for some Isaac Walton League initiative updates. Then we'll hear about the experiences of a current Nitrate Watch community scientist, Laura DeGollier. And please forgive me, Laura, if I'm mispronouncing that, and correct me. I always want to make sure I get names correct. Then Paula Liberty and Chris Mechanic will tell us more about the value of sampling in the same spot repeatedly. Then we'll turn it over to some conversation with a poll question, a survey question, asking more about that awareness in your community of nitrate in groundwater. And we'll close with some tips on managing your data in the Clean Water Hub. So just as some fast facts about WGF's Nitrate Watch program over this last year, I think we've had a really wonderful turnout from our community with 137 people stepping up and saying, we want to go out and collect this data. So we've had 137 community science volunteers. We've had 250 samples taken by those samplers, and we want to really bump that up, and we want to get more samples out on the landscape, learn more about what's going on with our waters over time. We do have a goal this month during Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week that we collectively get 115 samples. And there are lots of things that Sam will tell us more about that you can sort of celebrate in extra ways with that sampling and advocacy and education this week. So this is a graph that Chris Mechanic put together from our collective data in the Clean Water Hub. This is showing our nitrate results to date from those 250 different samples, showing the different nitrate levels in those samples. So as a reminder, I'm just going to turn to my notes here. Up to 2 is considered the natural range for groundwater, and up to 1 is considered the natural range for surface water. And then 10 parts per million is the drinking water limit. I think it's also important to note that the samples that were higher than 10, greater than 10 parts per million, were from the Little Plover River in Portage County and private wells in these counties, Oneida, Pierce, Portage, and Chippewa. So that's a brief glimpse of what we're seeing in those results collected to date. And in terms of where those samples are coming from, this bar graph is showing us those different kinds of sources. So when I look at this at a glance, I think, okay, the highest ones are coming from our private wells and small streams. We've also got a variety of different surface water types with lakes, rivers, ponds, and wetlands. And just as a reminder, when you're sampling from those private wells in Wisconsin, you're generally getting a groundwater result. So I will stop sharing there and turn it over to Sam. Please continue to keep things going in the chat, and we'll learn more about what's going on with Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week.
Alrighty, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for having me. It's nice to see you again. I'm the Clean Water Program Director at the Isaac Walton League, so I'm reporting to you all from Gaithersburg, Maryland. This is perhaps my last time I'll be meeting with you all because Heather Wilson will be coming back from maternity leave shortly, and she's our Nitrate Watch coordinator, so she spearheads this campaign, and she's in the Midwest. But happy to be seeing you all, especially as we're in Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week. So this started on Sunday and it will roll through next Saturday. And we have 3 pillars with this week that we are asking folks to engage in. And it's education, monitoring, and advocacy. And, you know, as the name implies, our goal is to raise awareness about nitrate pollution. It's a invisible pollutant. You can't see it, you can't smell it. And so we're hoping to make folks across the country more aware of this issue. And it is an issue from coast to coast in the Midwest, in Oregon, in Florida, and everywhere in between. You can learn more about this campaign at iwla.org/nitrate awareness. So everything that I'm covering now goes into way more detail on that website for you all to check in on. For the Learn pillar, we have 3 experts joining us for webinars this week. They're all at 12 p.m. Central, it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, we'll hear from Dr. Dave Swartney, who's going to talk about nitrate in drinking water. Thursday, we'll hear from Dr. Matt Liebman, who's going to talk about regenerative solutions for soil health and water quality, so more of the ag side and what we can do there. And then finally on Friday, we'll hear from Dr. Cassandra Gillespie, who's going to be talking about the dead zone in the Gulf and how what we do on the land in the Mississippi River Valley is impacting the Gulf. And interestingly enough, she's currently on a hypoxia cruise in the Gulf of Mexico. So she'll be coming back with all new information for us to hear. The second pillar is monitor. So, you know, we're talking about Nitrate Watch today. We're hoping that folks will get out there and monitor with their Nitrate Watch kits. It is not the only pillar of the Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week, but it is a major one. So if you don't already have a test kit, you can request one from us. We'll get it in the mail for free. This week, I usually send them about once a week. This week, I'm sending them every day to make sure we're getting them in folks' hands so that if they're requesting a kit in the middle of the week, they'll get it in a few days. Use your test strips to measure nitrate. You can measure in streams, lakes, ponds, or your tap, be it private wells or public water utilities, and then report your results on the Clean Water Hub database. Just to cover a few of our results here for Wisconsin, I did my best to snip the state of Wisconsin into this square. There's a little bit of missing spots at the top, but there was no data there yet, so I felt like that was okay. So far, we have 321 readings in Wisconsin. So as Carolyn mentioned, you all have, I think, over 250. So you all are a giant piece of the data that we're getting in Wisconsin, which is nice to see. 6.5% of those are over that drinking water standard. More than half of those results have been in that green 0 to 3 milligrams per liter, which is great to see. But we don't have a ton of data here yet. So we're looking for folks to help kind of fill in those data sets and also get some nice long data sets monitoring over time at one spot. Here are those results for surface water, so 254 readings. Still over half of them are in that green range, but we're seeing now almost half are above 3 milligrams per liter and 7.5% over that 10 milligrams per liter. Here's the average nitrate concentrations in surface water from Nitrate Watch volunteers in Wisconsin. And so you can see how it seasonally shifts here. So in the winter months, we're seeing not, we're not seeing levels that go over that drinking water standard. And then as we get into the spring flush time, April, May, June, and into the summer months, we're seeing a lot more readings that are going over that 10 milligrams per liter. So we like to do charts like this to show how that seasonally shifts over time for you all to see. There's no nationwide limit for nitrate in surface water. So we use that drinking water standard as our baseline because a lot of folks do draw their drinking water sources from surface waters. And so ideally, we would love to see our surface water stay below that drinking water standard as well. And then I want to make sure I say thank you to our sponsors. It looks like I missed a slide here. Hang on. I'm going to stop share real quick because I missed a key one, which I don't know how that happened, but please hold. Because we talked about monitoring, but then I somehow dropped the advocacy slide, which is the most important one. So where is it? Here it is. So sorry about that. Let me pull down this and then reshare. Okay, here we go. I'm back with the rest of my presentation. The third pillar, so we talked about learning with our webinars and our other resources on the website. We talked about monitoring with your Nitrate Watch kit. And then the third pillar is advocacy. And I want to emphasize the advocacy piece here because, monitoring is really important. Having the data is really important. But unless we are doing something with that data, we can't expect our monitoring to promote change on the ground and really protect our public health moving forward. And so we have tons of resources for you all to use to effectively advocate for solutions for nitrate pollution. We have an active action alert on our website right now to call a halt to nitrate pollution. That you can go to our website. It's on the nitrate awareness webpage. And it's easy to just click a few times, put in your address, and it'll send a letter to your representatives asking them to take a look at nitrate pollution in your region. We have a phone script if you're looking to call your representatives or leaders about this issue and you're nervous to pick up the phone and what to say when you're calling those folks. That'll help get you started. I also encourage you to edit any of these things at will to add your own personal experience as well. We have town hall questions, should you be going to town hall meetings and public events. Questions that you can ask the representatives on how they are going to tackle this issue. You don't have to go into these things being the expert and having all of the resources and the data for yourself. But you do, we do encourage you to come with the questions and see how those representatives will respond. And then we also have our guide to writing LTEs, letter to the editors, and op-eds. And we have some template LTEs and op-eds for Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week as well that you all can use to get some hopefully some news around this issue, especially in your local area. Now for Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week, we're doing something fun to encourage folks to participate. Every time you participate in the week, you will have a chance to win prizes. So when you attend a webinar, you get a raffle entry just by attending and listening in. When you submit data to the Clean Water Hub, every data point you submit is a raffle entry. And then every time you advocate for solutions in any way, shape, or form, that's 5 raffle entries. And so that'll show for you how much we're emphasizing the advocacy piece for Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week. Is you get a lot more raffle entries just for doing one advocacy action versus submitting a data point or attending a webinar. So our raffle winners, our grand prize winner will receive a countertop reverse osmosis drinking water filter system that'll take your nitrate out of your water if you have concerns there for your drinking water, as well as a year of filters associated with that system. Five raffle winners will receive a $100 REI or Cabela's gift card, your choice. And then 10 raffle winners will receive a Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week Owala water bottle. And then all of the raffle winners, from the grand prize all the way down to the water bottle, everyone will receive a water bottle. It's just those last 10 will only receive a water bottle. So as I mentioned before, share your data. That gets you a nitrate reading if you share it within the Clean Water Hub. Attend a webinar, that'll get you a raffle entry, and then advocate for solutions, that'll get you 5 raffle entries. So do that during this week, but we're accepting those submissions up through August 8th. So you'll get an additional week to kind of round up everything you've done during this week and submit it to us for your raffle entries. And then you're probably thinking, well, how are you supposed to know if I have done any advocacy actions? Because just because I submit an LTE doesn't mean that it'll get picked up in the local news. Well, we have a great online form for you to submit what you've done to us. So you don't have to record your phone conversations or take a selfie of yourself at your town halls. You can just submit those to us in this form so we can know what you've done. I encourage you to take pictures and stuff because that's fun. But you can just use the form to submit what you've done to us, and you don't have to worry about us trying to track that down on our own. And so, as I have mentioned before, you can learn a lot more on our website. We have all of our resources, fact sheets, all those templates and things that I mentioned, where to request a kit. Everything is in our website at iwla.org/nitrate awareness. That's our lander there, including how to register for the webinars. So I hope to see you all engaging as the week goes on. We'd like to see some more data points fill in Wisconsin, especially during this week, but moving forward. And if you have any questions, I'm monitoring that Nitrate Watch inbox, that email, so you can reach out to me at nitratewatch@iwla.org. That'll be easy for you all to remember. But I will hang around on this call as well if folks have questions trickling in too. And then I just want to say thank you to our sponsors. We hit a point in June. We had a ton of engagement in Nitrate Watch, which is amazing, but we ran out of test kits. I literally surpassed what I budgeted for less than halfway through the year. But we've had a ton of sponsors come through and help sponsor this project. So we have plenty of test kits to go around, maybe for the rest of the year, but especially for Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week. So I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors as well. And with that, I can pause and see if anybody has any questions, or we just want to move on to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Sam. I think that was a really fantastic overview. Really appreciate all those options that the ICEs are giving. And would anyone like to ask Sam a question on the floor right now? Otherwise, I will keep an eye on the chat and we can direct those her way.
Yeah, I'll be here. So if something comes up, I'm here to answer too.
Okay, well, I will turn it over to you, Chris and Laura, to take it away with the next part of our evening.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Well, good evening, everyone. Some of you know me. I'm Chris Mechnick. I am a retired groundwater scientist and educator, and I specialize in drinking water quality and public health. And I'm one of the 2 Wisconsin's Green Fire Nitrate Watch coordinators. We are very grateful to the Isaac Walton League. Obviously, they're running a national program. We are a partner of theirs, so we are running a state level program. Of course, relying heavily on their resources. They are the ones who provide you with the nitrate test kits. They are the ones who keep the Clean Water Hub working and enabling you to enter your data. And then, as you saw, they're also doing some national level summaries of the data and statewide ones for states that have a lot of samples as well. So we're very grateful for all of that. Tonight, we're going to try to start a new tradition for our Nitrate Watch gatherings by having us hear from one of our community scientists, maybe to get a little bit of inspiration about how somebody's doing a great job with Nitrate Watch, and maybe you can try to emulate them if you're interested. So I'd like to introduce Laura DeGolier. She has been participating in volunteer water sampling projects for 21 years. She started taking samples for Nitrate Watch in April. If you have questions for Laura as we're talking, please type them into the chat and we'll see how many of them we can get to. So we'll start out by asking Laura to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Nitrate Watch.
Thanks, Chris. I got involved because I saw the advertisement or information about it. I think perhaps in some of the water material that I get, like from the UW Extension, and maybe it was from Greenfire, I'm not sure, but I saw it, mentioned it to some of my team members, and I said, I think we should add this. Nobody objected, and so I ordered a kit. And when we started testing water in April, then we added the nitrate testing to all of our samplings. So that was how we got started this year. I'm familiar with the Isaac Walton League because they have property near my town of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and we actually did some water monitoring on the stream that flows through their property a few years ago.
What do you think Nitrate Watch adds to the sampling that you've been doing over all these years?
Well, one of the nice things is it gives us current feedback so that when we monitor and we collect data, most of that goes into a lab or somewhere else, and it's just data. We don't really get immediate feedback. But with the Nitrate Watch and the test strips, it's immediate. We know immediately something about the health of our stream and how good or how bad it is. And that's been very interesting to our people. I'm fortunate that the team I have has 3 or 4 people who have a scientific background. And so that there's always a lot of interest in the science part of things. And the Nitrate Watch has really enhanced that because, again, we get that immediate feedback and they're talking about, why do you suppose it's at this level this month and that kind of thing. So that it's created more interest because it's immediate and it's something new. It's not the same protocol we've been following.
Sure. So as you mentioned, you manage a team of volunteers, and you and I talked for a long time on the phone one day, and I know that you've had lots of comings and goings of people on your team, and you've sometimes had to recruit new people and work with new people in agencies and such. You and your team have already collected 15 samples from your 4 sites since you started in April. How do you all stay organized and motivated to go out there and collect that many samples?
Well, I try to be somewhat of a motivator by making sure that I send out emails to them, sometimes once a week, sometimes it's a little bit less than that. Keep them short and sweet. I also do take pictures because the UW Extension likes pictures of the work that we do. So I usually record every one of our trips with pictures, and everybody enjoys seeing themselves in pictures, of course. And that helps tell the story, and that seems to help bring them together. And I used to work with a set team of just 4 people, and that was it. We were always the same people. But then when somebody retired and moved away, and some people got sick or didn't feel like they could continue to walk the uneven ground to the rivers, I had to begin to look for other people. And I was trying again to put together the 4, set people. But as it turned out, it was a lot easier to have several teams. So now I have 3 different teams, and I ask them to sign up in the wintertime, when they're going to take that month. But even if something happens, there's always somebody there who can fill in. So I find having the different teams to really be much better. And it just gives also a larger group when we get together for our annual meeting in February. It's a lot more fun to have 12 or 15 people there than to have 4.
Sure, right. Well, that's impressive. And it would be wonderful to have teams like that. And maybe someday we will get more of that collaboration among our community scientists, that people may get together and do some of that. And that's one of the things that we hope for by having these meetings. But it's okay to just go out by yourself too and keep an eye on that local stream, or test your own drinking water, test the neighbors' wells, whatever it is that you are motivated to do, and to do it regularly if you can. And Paul's going to talk a little bit later about why it's worthwhile to not just take one sample and be done and never do it again. So that's something that we're going to talk about later. So Do you have any words of encouragement for people who aren't sure, Laura, about whether or not they want to try this?
Well, I would suggest that they go out with somebody because when you get to the river shore, it's not always very even, and we don't want you to fall and slip. And I met a man recently in the neighboring town of Ripon, Wisconsin, and on his very first monitoring experience, he fell into the river. So,
Oh,
so it would be a good idea to have somebody there just in case you do that kind of thing. So he said he had now come up with a nick. They now call him Splash because it also so happened, since it was a small community local newspaper, they were there and they got a picture.
oh boy.
So so that was his experience. It's a good idea if you're going to have a team or going to have one or two people, try to do something fun. The treat on when we first started, I often carried chocolate that I would pass out, but since then we have come up with coffee. So I pick up coffee every month for whoever is on our team that particular time. We stop after our second, it's about halfway on travel distance, that we stop and we have a cup of coffee, cappuccino, something like that. And everybody looks forward to that. That's just a regular part of our routine. So if you can do something fun, that helps it too. I think it does help too if somebody does take time to take the pictures to try to show those to others, because that also encourages, some kind of a bond with the people. And so that kind of thing also helps. It's those fun things that you do that can build your team or build the desire to keep doing it. If you are able to get a retired person that has been a chemistry teacher, biology teacher, and I have a retired doctor, I have a retired agronomist, and I have people who were in their younger lives chemists, and that helps because they have an interest in this. And if you have just one person like that on a team, it can go a long way towards education. And I think that educating helps people to stay more involved and more interested, because they're not just doing something, they're learning about something. And if you're a scientist, it seems like you're always wanting to learn something.
Sure. Carolyn, are we getting any questions in the chat?
I am not seeing any questions currently, but I will second that uh, reminder to please put those in there. And we can also perhaps find a moment later in the conversation for folks who want to voice their questions aloud.
Okay. Well, Laura, I will give you the last minute to share anything that you would still like to share with us.
Well, let's see, we've gone over a whole lot of the things that are important, I think, to people. It's to be able to work on something like this in the community and then share with people, and I have brought, not this year, but in the past, I've taken our county board supervisors out so that they know what we do. I've taken assembly people out. We have an open assembly seat this year. So one of the candidates actually is on my team. So
Oh,
that's good, very good for us. But it does help to get the word out, that you are doing something and that you're out and around. And if you have more people on, again, that also creates conversation because they will talk to other people. So that helps in passing out, the information. Just be curious and go out there and, start to learn about what is really in your backyard and what is going on in your own watershed. And that's probably the biggest benefit that I think you get out of it, because you just know about your place a lot better than you ever did before. So if you're afraid, grab a friend and take a friend and go with you, and grab a kit because it's free, and start doing it, and go out we go out as wave monitors every 4 weeks. That's a pretty good spacing for us. So but to do it more than once is a good idea, so that you do have a record and you can see what's going on over time. So go out and do it. Just do it.
sure. Thank you so much, Laura, for being amazing in all of this work that you're doing, and also in being willing to share with our group. It's really appreciated.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
I do have one question that's come in that I think might be good to hear an answer from both Laura and Chris. And it's Where do you know where the best place to test is? So maybe Laura, how did you choose your sites? And Chris, if you would like to speak to that question, how do you know where the best place to test is?
Well, when we started, we had somebody from Trout Unlimited guide us. And one of the things that you want to look for is pretty easy access, not a dangerous site. So look for a place that you can easily get to. Some Trout Unlimited people, because they're very purist about getting water samples from their streams, will walk a quarter mile or more. We don't do anything that's that involved. We look for places that are, easy accessible. One of them is in a park. In fact, two of them are in parks. And then I have taken to going out and kind of clearing a path. Unfortunately, because one of the places is just overgrown with reed canary grass, I use a little bit of Roundup just to keep the path clear so that we can walk through and get through, because the reed canary this year is 4 feet and more high. That those kinds of things help and make it easier for people to get there. So I think the biggest thing is look for a place that you can get right to the water without endangering anybody on your team.
That sounds good to me. And also remember that all data is good data. Paul talked the last time we got together about sampling a river where different tributaries come in, so you can see how the water changes as water is added as the river goes along. And maybe he'll talk about that in this next section. But I think I'll turn it over to Paul, and he's going to talk to us about sort of that concept we touched on a little bit here. Why is it worthwhile to sample the same place twice, Paul?
Thank you, Chris. I'm Paul Liberty. I worked for DNR for most of my career and worked on water the whole time. And a lot of surface water, although I did do some groundwater work as well. And I want to talk a little bit about uh, sampling frequency. Uh, this is a data set that's actually from Iowa, but it's pretty informative because at this site they continually record the nitrate level with an automated device, not a simple test kit like we use. Those of you who tuned in last time saw this once before, but it gives you a feel for how things bounce around in a river. So what we're trying to do with our simple test kits is get a handle on how much of this kind of thing is going on the stream that we're sampling. So can I get the next slide? And this is some of Laura's data to show that variability that she's documenting with her team. You can see they've got some a high nitrate site, a low nitrate site, and then some in the middle. And you see that the East Branch is fairly consistent, but Parsons Creek bounces around. So it's an example of how you can document what's going on with our test kits. And they were able to do this in just a few months. I started in April and this is through July. Next slide. Here's another one of our sites. This is the kind of output you can get out of the data hub. This is the Little Plover River. This runs a pretty high concentration, as you can see. It's getting up above 15, all the way up to 20. And this is high for a Wisconsin water body. It's from a part of the state where this is not all that uncommon. And you can see the variability and the size of the stream. The size of the stream is pretty important as well as its geologic setting. Let's try another slide. Okay, this is Iverson Park Beach, Plover River. We're now in a bigger river. We see the concentrations aren't as high because bigger watershed, you've got more variety of contributing subwatersheds, but you still see some variability there. And it's being well documented at this site. Again, a bit of a bigger river. And let's have the next slide. And now we're all the way up into the Wisconsin River at this site. Definitely a much bigger river, bigger watershed, lots of forested areas in the upper end of the watershed, which would deliver low amounts of nitrogen as opposed to the agricultural areas, which would be higher. So the average concentration is lower in this bigger river, but you still see the bouncing around the seasonal effect. So in all of these situations on these surface waters, there's value in going back repeatedly and document what's going on a seasonal basis. Another slide, please. And here we're switching over to groundwater. Uh, this is a nitrate level in a private well, and you can see it's going above and below the drinking water standard. So if the question is, well, is this well above or below the drinking water standard? The answer would be depends on when you take the sample. So all this argues to sample repeatedly. And I recently got caught not practicing what I preach. When I bought my house 30 years ago, I did a radon test and it was good. And so I figured, all right, I'm good. And I noticed a bunch of radon vent stacks showing up in the neighborhood. So I figured, ooh, I better test my house again. And I'm above the radon standard now. So I've got to get my house worked on. So all these environmental contaminants and sources vary over time, and there's definitely great value in sampling things repeatedly or at least multiple times before you draw any conclusions. And they change over time, as did my basement and my house. And I think that's all I have.
So I'll I'll leave this slide up, or I'll turn my camera back on because I know we wanted to have a little bit separate conversation about these maps. I wondered, Paul, if you could share something you said recently about how that drinking water standard of 10 so isn't a magic threshold where if you're just under it, you're perfectly good, and if you're just above it, you know, could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, when establishing standards, speed limits, or whatever, uh, society demands a number gets picked. And that doesn't mean that there's a big difference between 10 and a half and 9.5. If you've got numbers in that range in your drinking water, um, you've got significant cultural influence. And another thing to remember with that drinking water standard, that's based on 60-year-old science, and we know a whole lot more now about drinking water and its health effects than we did 60 years ago. And if modern health analysis were done on the science of nitrate in drinking water, that number would probably be quite a bit lower. So it's important to know if you've got well water and your numbers are above 2, it's being influenced. And if you're at 9, that doesn't mean you're totally safe and there's nothing to worry about. Um, but it all starts with knowing what you're dealing with. And what we have on these slides here, this is a repeat from last time. On the right is actual drinking water data from private wells around the state of Wisconsin. And the redder the area, the higher the number of wells exceeding 10 is. So the blue areas generally don't find nitrogen problems, and the greens and yellows you sometimes do, and uh, the orange ones, uh, we've got 25% of the wells exceeding 10. And on the left is some modeling that's been done that looks at all the things that contribute to what makes a site susceptible to nitrate contamination in the groundwater. We talked about this the last time. I thought I'd bring this slide back up. and just remind people that the risk level around the state isn't the same, and it pays to know where you are in the state when you're making your own decisions on how you want to manage your health risk.
Any questions about Paul's slides on the variability and sampling in those places over time before we move into the next part of our evening? Any questions? Okay, I see that Sam put in some information about another webinar happening tomorrow with the Ikes about the drinking water standard issue. So Sam's just put the link in where you can sign up for those other webinars happening during Nitrate Pollution Awareness Week. So the next step that we'll be doing together in our meeting is I'll be launching a poll or a survey, which will show 2 questions. We'll leave this map up so you can refer to it while you consider those questions, but it's going to ask you to have a think on where you are in this landscape, and then a question about awareness in your community about nitrate in groundwater. So I will launch that in just a moment here. You should see a pop-up window with those 2 questions, and they're both multiple choice. So we'll give you a minute or 2 to fill those out. Okay, we've got most people have responded to the poll. We'll give you just another 30 seconds to complete those 2 questions. I will stop displaying the map so that we can display these results. Okay, I'll end the poll, and you should start seeing the results to those questions on your screen now. I'll just kind of summarize them and then turn it over to Chris and Paul to lead the discussion about what this means for us as a group. So it looks like of the 14 of us who were able to answer that poll, 57% find ourselves in a higher risk area, 36%, 5 of us in a lower risk area, and 1 who's not sure. It can be a little hard to interpret these maps, so I completely understand that, but I think it gives us a good idea of the range that we're living in as a group. And in terms of our awareness, how aware is your community of nitrate in groundwater? 14% who say there's no awareness in their community, 64%, the vast majority, there's some awareness, 7%, just 1 respondent who say awareness is common, and 2 of us, 14%, who say I'm in a low risk zone, this doesn't really apply to me. So when you hear those results, Chris, what comes to mind for you?
I guess I'd like to hear people talk about what are the indicators in your community that people are aware? How do you see this in your community? People talking about it in the coffee shop, people going to public meetings, people writing letters to the editor. Love to hear some responses to that.
Hi, Chris. This is Pete Arnson. You there?
Pete. Yep. Good to hear you.
Yeah, I'm here in Stevens Point, and I am involved with a lot of this nitrate work, and have worked with a bunch of folks, and so I'm biased in my response. But here in Portage County, central Wisconsin, I think we do a fairly good job at bringing up the issue and making the point. I think if people aren't aware of it, a lot of it is, willful ignorance. They just don't want to know about it. They have been told and don't do anything about it. So I think just keep on the advocacy side of things and again, bringing it up at town meetings is a good one, county land and water conservation meetings. It is certainly more of a rural issue than an urban issue, and a lot of the rural folks don't like talking about it. They may know about it, but don't want to acknowledge it for various reasons. One thing I was wondering about your private well sampling is are the locations public knowledge? Does that get included with this or not? Because it's not uncommon for homeowners to be concerned about high nitrate concentrations and they may participate, but they don't want to share their information with their location just because of, the potential concerns, property values, or other issues out there. Don't want the neighbors to know that you got high nitrate.
Sure. That's a good question, Pete. We have talked about this a little bit, knowing that there is that concern. If you go to the map and drop a pin, um, it can pinpoint your house if you wanted to. You can also drop a pin at the intersection that's closest to you. You can drop a pin in the middle of a larger area. You don't have to drop the pin on top of your house, uh, because what we want to know is not, to 7 decimal places exactly where this place is, but what is the trend in this general area? And Sam, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I was going to chime in. What I will say is that the hub is capable of keeping your site as private, meaning that it's not publicly accessible. It's only accessible by you, the site creator. And so if you got readings at your home that you are really concerned about being like public knowledge, that's always an option. Obviously, we want the data in a larger data set. It's really helpful for us looking at the regionally and statewide the trends over time. But most importantly, we want folks to be protected with their drinking water in their own houses. So if it's something that you want the information, but you don't want it necessarily public, you can still enter it into the database, keep it as private, and it won't be publicly accessible.
Right, that's another good tip. Carolyn, are you going? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. We have one person with their hand up right now,
Yes,
so I was going to turn it over to them next. So I see Ned, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm in Monroe County, and our land conservation department has been quite active more recently here in doing well water testing through the UW Stevens Point lab. Nitrate is one of the parameters being tested, as well as 6 or 7 other things that you would normally test. So we are fairly active over here in trying to establish the database, find out what's going on.
That's good. Those county level programs where they get the data, run through a certified lab, gives you a whole nother level of accuracy, precision compared to what we're doing. But what we're doing is crowdsourcing and getting tons of data so that, as Paul was saying, it's not a great, it is significant to scientists whether your nitrate is 9 versus 11, but as we like to say, there is no nitrate cliff. It's not like everything's good and then all of a sudden you fall off this cliff. It's like it's increasingly worse as it gets higher. So both of those approaches I think are really worthwhile.
I have a
I think we
question
have,
in the chat from Alan, maybe as one before we turn it over to your final tips on data entry. Did you want to do that, or do you think we have time for additional questions?
I think I only have about 5 minutes, so I think we have 5 more minutes to take care of this.
Okay, excellent. Well, Alan asks, are you collecting Wisconsin unique well number information so that the data can be used with other well monitoring data?
We are not. Paul, maybe you could answer that better. I think this data is probably not of a quality that DNR wants to put it in their groundwater retrieval network, but do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, I think you're right that this isn't quality assured data. We rounded up to some simple endpoints with our color, it's a colorimetric test. The stuff that goes into official databases is done with, automated chemistry with spectrophotometers, and they get down to the decimal point. And there definitely is a not an interest in mixing data of vastly different accuracies into one data set. And it was previously mentioned, there are people who are concerned about privacy and who knows who can even readily get to their well number at their house. I've got a cabin with a well number. I have to scratch my head to figure out, well, I'm sure I've got that there somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So if you're sampling somebody's well and you ask them for their well number, they'd probably be as useful as I am.
It's supposed to be posted somewhere, like on the interior plumbing, I believe, but yeah, who knows? Yeah, or a label on the well. That's a good point too.
We do have another comment from Dan that I think is important to voice, that lots of engagement on Facebook about nitrate issues in Nelsonville as a way that people are raising awareness about these topics. And Laura pointed out people who are testing their wells and then talking about their concerns. I
Sure.
think are both really important ways to raise that awareness. I
I would
know
share.
Paul Heinen had another
Oh,
related point. Did you want to speak about that, Paul, about sort of what this conversation is looking like at the Capitol?
Coincidentally, today, Melissa Johnson, our executive director at Great Fire, and I met for an hour and a half with Senator Jody Habush-Sinekin, who very likely will be the chair of the Senate Natural Resources and Environment Committee next year. Um, she is very interested in almost all water quality issues. But actually, when I talked to her aide before this and mentioned this meeting, I said, I'm sorry, it's 7 to 8 tonight, but you may want to monitor this group because it would be a great group for Jody to bring to the Capitol and just have a hearing. You're sitting around the meeting room. Samantha, I think that it'd be really important for you and Robbie. Robbie Abrahamian is his name, Jody's aide, and he is the person that Jody will rely on, along with Greenfire. Jody used to be a Greenfire board director. So she relies on us quite a bit to tell her what are the issues that I need to address. Now, as I listen here today, maybe all of you have ideas about that. This is not what this was talking about. But you all are people that somebody like Jody, unlike, you've probably met other legislators who are kind of pompous and they'll tell you what's going on. It's not Jody. Jody wants to hear from you what's important. And Paula Liberty, I'll be using you quite a bit because she is interested and told Melissa and I want you to tell me what it is that I need to do. So be thinking about that. I don't know when you're going to have another one of these, Carolyn, another one of these meetings, but maybe that's the time I could invite her or Robbie to talk about, boy, what is it that we can do for you? When they were talking about test kits, Samantha, why don't you get $100,000 from the legislature to try to do statewide testing? You might as well think big because that's what the legislators like to do. So anyway, because it happened this morning, I thought I should let these people know about this. So I'll stay involved with Chris and Paul and Carolyn to make sure that we keep this in front of us. Thank you all for all you're doing.
Do we have any more questions or comments? I'm going to tell a really quick story in that case, and then we'll move on to some tips about working with the hub. I am also the group expert for a Facebook group that's called Portage County for Clean Water. And it started out with a lot of ambitious goals of doing a lot of events and stuff, and now it's kind of a Facebook page. But that little Plover River data that you saw that where the nitrate was around 20 was mine. And I just posted that on the Portage County for Clean Water Facebook page. And that got a lot of conversation going, as Dan said. And we actually got 16 people from Portage County to sign up for Nitrate Watch in 1 week. So, you sometimes just sharing your information sort of lights a fire. It's pretty amazing. So, Carolyn, are we ready for me to did you want to do any kind of a wrap up before I do this demo, just in case people who aren't actually actively sampling don't want to stick around for that part? Or do you want to just do it at the end?
All right, this feels like a good moment to do that. I'll just bring this last screen up one more time, just in case anyone has to leave right at the top of the hour. Just as a reminder, we are here for you. We want to be a community and be in touch with you while you're out in the world collecting these samples. You don't have to go out and then only touch base with us the next time we have a virtual meeting like this. So this is the way to reach Paul and Chris directly via email. You can also go to the Wisconsin's Greenfire website, wigreenfire.org, to find other ways to connect with the organization. Please do all of the advocacy steps that Sam pointed out and redeem those for prizes and just do it for the sake of doing it. And if there are ways that you want to connect as a group, please let us know. We want to facilitate that. The recording of this presentation will be on our website and our YouTube channel. And please stay in touch, and thank you for being here.
Okay, I am going to share my screen. I can see where it is that I do that. Oh, here we go. Nope, not that. Where'd it go, Carolyn? I've got chat, react, share settings. More? No?
Depending on if your window is smaller, you maybe have to go into the more menu, but it should be the share button with the up arrow that lets you choose your screen to share.
Yep,
Awesome.
thank you. Okay. Technology. All right, I am screen sharing, and that's good, but that's not the one we want. Let's do this one. No, not that one either, this one. Okay. All right. So I am sort of the person who is most frequently asked questions about, and most frequent question I get from our participants is, I can't figure out how to enter my data on the Clean Water Hub. So that is a problem that our samplers have. And a related problem that I have is if you cannot link your data to Wisconsin's Greenfire, I don't get to see it. I could see it if I went hunting through the entire database for it. But if you link your sites to Wisconsin's Greenfire, that puts your data in that summary that Carolyn gave at the beginning. And we really do want to know how many people are participating, where are they sampling, what are they finding? And we're trying to meet this goal of 115 samples for July. So I'm going to just share how you can do that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to the Clean Water Hub, cleanwaterhub.org, and I am going to log in. Okay, so here we are. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to my sites. And here we have not only my personal sites, but because I'm one of the coordinators, everyone's site who's part of Nitrate Watch through Wisconsin Green Fire. So what I want you to do, please, is when we are finished here, go to your sites and be sure that every single one of them is connected to Wisconsin's Green Fire. This is someone's site, and this is where you will see whether or not you are connected to Wisconsin's Green Fire. We have some people who are connected, but you will also, if you have been sampling, then you will also be connected to Nitrate Watch. We have a few people who have created sites that don't have any data in them yet. So they aren't connected to Nitrate Watch. They're only connected to Wisconsin's Green Fire. So if you have sites that you haven't used yet, they might look like this. Also, if you belong to another organization, like here's an example of someone who belongs to the Isaac Walton League as well as Green Fire and is sampling with Nitrate Watch. So you can belong to more than one organization. There's no problem with that. But I created this demo site to show you what it looks like when you aren't connected to anything. This one right here. So I'm going to, I have nothing listed here under my site name. I don't have Nitrate Watch, I don't have Wisconsin Green Fire, and I want to fix this. So I'm going to go to my site and I want to enter my data, but there's no place to enter it. I can't enter data. So then people need help to figure out what to do. It's actually a very simple solution. You can't enter data until you are affiliated with some sort of an organization. So we're going to affiliate this site with Wisconsin Green Fire. And I'm going to click on this pencil, which is right next to the name of my site. I got to this from that page where it showed all my sites. Now I'm in this one site, and I'm going to click on this pencil to edit this site. And here you will see this site form that you filled out before. If you already have a site, here's the name of my site, its description. It asks you what the water source is. And here's where I pasted my picture. And just below that, there is a line for organizations. And we want to begin typing an organization name. So we need to type Wisconsin Green Fire, but not really, because all I have to do is type W and wait a little bit, and it comes up with a choice of Wisconsin's Green Fire. It also comes up with Nitrate Watch, but if you click Wisconsin's Green Fire, you will have access to Nitrate Watch. So this is what I want you to do so that I can see your data. I can help you with any issues that you have, and we can get a full picture of all the things that people are doing and contributing by participating in this. So I clicked on that name, Wisconsin's Green Fire. It didn't show up in the box, but now it's down here. So now I'm connected to Wisconsin's Green Fire. And I have to be sure to save my changes. So now if I go to my sites, hold on, it's thinking about that. There we go. Okay, now my site is connected to Wisconsin's Green Fire. Now if I go back into my site and I want to add my data, it says create a reading. I can add data to my site now. I can create a new Nitrate Watch reading and I will get the Nitrate Watch form. So when that happens, you can enter your data, you're happy. I can see your data, I'm happy. So again, this is important because it lets you enter your data. It lets us see and compile the data so we can make use of it to characterize water quality in Wisconsin and look for nitrate hotspots. And you can advocate for good water quality policies, as Paul was just talking about. He's in touch with people in the state legislature, and we're trying to make change at a broad level. So that, not only can people like Paul advocate, but you and your neighbors can advocate as well once you see the data that's compiled. So I will take a few questions on that. I understand we're past the time now, so anyone who needs to go, that's great. I will answer any questions if anybody has any on what I just showed you here. Well, that must have been a pretty thorough explanation, Carolyn.
I really think it was. I am not seeing any questions in the chat. And as a reassurance, if anyone feels like they need to revisit that tutorial, we'll be posting that in the recording. We also have some tips from our meeting in the spring on our website, so I will make sure that we follow up with those links. Any other questions? I know sometimes it takes a moment to think about what your question is and have a moment to say it, so I want to make sure we give you that opportunity. If not, I think we will say thank you again for being here. Thank you for being involved in Wisconsin's Green Fire, involved in Nitrate Watch. Personally, I think what you're doing is really important. It's really important to our organization. So stay in touch, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.